Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to Learn to Read Tarot with me. This is a series I like to do here on the channel where I bring you into my brain as I break down some basic reading methods for working with your tarot cards. So that's the goal today. I'm going to be kind of mixing and matching a few different things that people have been asking for and or saying that they find useful. We're going to be working with a clarifying card today, or a finishing card. So I'm going to be using the Affirmators Deluxe for that. We're also going to be working through a shadow work spread, and I'm going to do that using three very distinctly different kinds of decks. So this will be a basic 3-card shadow work spread. It's one that I created inspired by the work I've done in my book, The Self-Worth Path, around shadow work. So it's going to be based on the process that I talk about in that book. And it's a very simple 3-card spread. I've covered it on the channel before in my Walking the Self-Worth Path series, so you may be familiar with it already. But if you're new here, come on in, get comfy, settle in, grab a beverage or a snack. This is really meant to be a teaching kind of video, something that can help you learn how to string cards together, read different kinds of cards in a spread in combination with one another, all of that kind of stuff. Now, if you are brand new to tarot, I definitely recommend that you start with my brand new to tarot series, which is called Tarot with Training Wheels. That is a series I have here on YouTube. I'll link the entire playlist down below. That series will teach you how to just get started reading basic meanings into each of your 78 tarot cards. Start there. If you want to dive even deeper into foundational tarot knowledge, I recommend the course on my website called Tarot Bootcamp for Beginners, which will also be linked down below. I am currently working on another course for my website that will be all about intuitive tarot reading that I hope to launch soon. But with all of that said, let's get into it. So the 3 decks that I have to work with today are the Kawaii Tarot. This is a new release, and the illustrator of this deck is Lulu Mayo. I have the Reflective Tarot. This is just a really cute Rider-Waite-Smith deck that happens to have a really shiny finish on the cards that I find absolutely lovely and delightful. Oh no, do I have reversals in here? Okay, well, pause. I'm going to fix that. All right, we're all sorted out. It's not that I don't want to cover reversals in this series. I do. I just don't have that planned for today's video, and I want to keep the video a manageable length. So we'll do that another time. But for this time, I want to work with the Reflective Tarot. We're going to do the same spread with this deck, which is a basic Rider-Waite-Smith deck that just happens to be cute. We're also going to work with a deck that I prefer to use for shadow work, and that is the Deviant Moon Borderless Tarot. So the artwork in this deck is very kind of creepy and dark and confronting, and I really enjoy it for shadow work. It makes shadow work easier for me personally. But I also wanted to take a deck that is as far from a shadowy deck as I could think of to show shadow work, and this was requested. So I'm going to use the Kawaii Tarot, which is an incredibly, oh, my insert just came out. Did you see that? My insert just came out of the box. Whoops. This is an incredibly cute deck with an art style that is exactly like it sounds like. It's kawaii, which is cute in Japanese. It's an incredibly adorable, sweet deck, but I want to show that you can do shadow work with any type of deck, because I think, myself included, we tend to talk as if shadow work should be done with a dark and spooky deck, or a creepy deck, or a deck like this. And the reality is you can use a Rider-Waite-Smith, you can use an adorable deck like the Kawaii Tarot, and sometimes this is preferred because it's much more approachable and gentle, and it might feel a lot less confronting to work with a deck like this to look into your shadowy stuff, you know? So I want to show examples of working with each of these 3 decks for the purposes of this video. So I'm going to start with my default, which is the Deviant Moon Tarot. But before I do, I want to get this deck handy. So the Affirmators, I'm going to use this to pull a bit of a, how do I say this right? Okay, when you're doing shadow work, and let me pause and define what I see as shadow work. Shadow work, in my experience, is the work of shining a light into the dusty, cobwebby sort of attics of your subconscious, or even your conscious mind, looking for the parts of yourself that you tend to repress, either because, and they can be good things, they can be neutral things, they can be bad things, or things that you perceive as bad. They can be difficult things to look at yourself about, because for whatever reason, you're not comfortable having them out in the full light. So the goal of shadow work, in my experience, is to shine a light into those dusty, dark places in yourself, bring that stuff out into the light, take responsibility, and sort of integrate that stuff to a degree. So I felt like the Affirmators would be a wonderful deck to do sort of a finishing card, to end on a encouraging or action-oriented note, a little piece of advice to carry forward. Now, this is the new version of the Affirmators. I used to have several smaller versions, but they recently came out with this deluxe version, which is 100 cards, all mixed and matched from their various other Affirmators decks, all in one big set. And it's just really convenient because I really enjoy this deck, but there are a ton of cards. It's massive. If you have small hands, this is going to be a little difficult to manage, but it has the cardstock that feels identical to the cardstock of the Affirmators Tarot. So if you like the Affirmators Tarot cardstock, this feels identical to me. Maybe a little bit smoother, but it's still linen. It's still lovely. Okay, so we're going to have this handy just on the side here, just to pull sort of a finishing card for each of the 3 versions of this shadow work spread we're going to do. So the shadow work spread we're going to do, and I'll talk about it as I shuffle here, is a 3-card spread, and the prompts are observe, own, and create conscious change. These are the 3 steps of shadow work that I discuss in my book, The Self-Worth Path, and that I've gone over this spread again, as I mentioned, in my Walking the Self-Worth Path series video. So the steps go like this. The first card is going to tell us something we can observe about our shadow, something within our shadow that we need to look at. So the first act is to sort of notice that thing about ourselves and bring it into the light of our awareness. So that's the first position. The second position, own. This is about integrating / taking responsibility for / owning this part of ourselves. So how can we own that part of ourselves? And the third position, create conscious change, is how can we take what we've hidden and lurked away, kind of packed away in the shadow, and how can we take that, and we've taken responsibility for it in the second position, and in the create conscious change, how do we now take what we've learned from that and either change by bringing it fully into the light and like moving forward with it if it's a positive thing, or if it's like a bad habit we've noticed about ourselves, how can we create a change, do something different, right? And that is the point of the 3-card spread. So I'm going to be using myself as an example, so prepare for a little vulnerability. We'll see what comes through, and we'll just see what happens. So I'm thinking about myself here. The next 2 readings, we'll see if I think about myself or if I make up. I don't know if I could do this for a fake querent, so I may just do all 3 about myself. So welcome into my brain. Let's get into it. All right, so our 3 positions, observe, own, create conscious change. Or if you want to write it more simply, observe, own, and change are the 3 prompts. All right. One last shuffle here. Okay, I'm going to zoom us in. Oh, of course we get a really confronting card first. That's awesome. Okay, so this is why I love this deck for this work. And I think this is really cool. Okay. So we're starting off with just the tarot cards, and then I'll do the Affirmators card after I've worked through these 3. So we have observe, own, create conscious change. So let's start with the observe card. So what can I observe about my shadow in this hermit card? Well, this looks like a hermit who is hiding, who is avoiding. He's not consciously moving inward in order to grow and learn, but is rather avoiding, hiding, trying to get away from something. There's the key word that's jumping out at me with this card is avoidance. It's avoidance and hiding. And yet there's still a little bit of danger with him. He's got this little piranha that came in with him. So the danger is still there. It's not like it went away because he went into this little cave. It's still right there. That's what I see in this image. So when I'm looking at that for my own personal shadow work, I'd be like, okay, there's been some avoidance. I need to look at the avoidance in my shadow. There's some things going on there. Where am I avoiding? How can I move through that place of avoiding and move into a space of integration, which is what our next position is going to talk through. In the center position where we have own, so we have avoidance as the thing I've observed. Okay, so that's the first position. How do I own this avoidance? How do I say, okay, this is what I'm doing? How can I integrate that knowledge as truth? The Queen of Cups is a compassionate, sort of nurturing court card. She's offering this cup. She's open-hearted. She's willing to engage on an emotional level. And that tells me that whatever I'm avoiding, whatever I'm hiding from is probably emotional. There's probably an emotion that I'm not fully acknowledging, embracing, stepping into. So where in my life am I avoiding that acceptance of love, that acceptance of nurturing, that acceptance of mothering? And how can I do that? So in this case, we're owning it. So I'm going, okay, this is what I've seen. I've seen avoidance. So I've observed it here. I'm going to own that feeling and recognize that that feeling is coming from a place of where am I avoiding receiving, or it could be about giving. Where am I avoiding receiving or giving, nurturing, love, and support? And I know exactly what this is about, and I'm not going to get into details, but I'll say this third card is about how do I create change? And what's interesting here when we look at the directionality of the cards, because I don't always do this, but in this case, it's really, really grabbing my attention. We have our hiding hermit figure here, and our Queen of Cups is offering the nurturing and the love to this figure. She's facing that way. She's offering it to this poor, scared hermit. And so when I look at this and I think about myself, I'm like, okay, I'm being offered. That's where I got that energy from. I'm being offered some love, some compassion, and some support, but I'm hiding from it. Why is that? What can I think about that? And this is where journaling is really, really helpful, because you can write these thoughts out as you're exploring them in your reading for yourself. The third card over, we've now moved away from this interaction. So we've observed and we've owned. We've admitted, okay, this is what's going on. And I'm taking responsibility for it and saying, yes, this is what I've been doing. Okay, how do we create conscious change? And we have the Two of Cups. And what a beautiful card to pull as a what to do differently to get out of this space. Well, we stop hiding, we connect with others, we open our heart, we allow that emotion in. We have these two figures exchanging cups. They're fully engaged and present in the moment. So what I'm taking from this, as far as how to change this, how to stop avoiding, how to open myself up to be comfortable to receive, is allow those connections to take place. I'm seeing in this Two of Cups an opportunity to recognize that I can actually engage fully. I can be present. I can look this person in the face who's offering me this compassion and the support, and simply allow myself to accept and receive it. And that can be a challenge sometimes when it's more comfortable for some of us to maybe give that than to receive it. It can be really challenging. And the Two of Cups is challenging me that to do this differently, to come out of this hiding, to be able to accept this, I really need to look it in the face and be willing to engage with it. So that's how I would interpret this spread. Now that I've kind of beaten myself up a little bit with it, though, I'm going to scoot these cards up, grab my Affirmators deck, and pull sort of what's a key message? What's a key takeaway from this reading? Something I can hold in my heart as I do this work, as I engage with that Two of Cups. If I allow conscious connection, how can I, what's a good thing to take with me into this, from this work? Okay. We'll split it there. And the card I have, playfulness. Perfect. So it says, I am a playful participant in life, and I always have the option to make something a fun game rather than a heavy burden. Mary Poppins puts sugar in the medicine for a reason. That lady really knows how to party. How perfect of a closing message is that for this reading, right? It's like, okay, need to not hide from it. I need to allow myself to receive that love and that nurturing. I need to look it square in the face. That's what this reading told me. And actually look for the sugar in the medicine, right? There's a sweet, sweet gift in doing this work, right? There's a treasure to be found. By allowing that stuff in, I get to enjoy that treasure, that reward, that dessert. And that's what I got out of my takeaway. So that gives you an idea of how I would do a reading like this with my shadowiest deck, the Deviant Moon Tarot. So we're going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to try making up a fake querent just so this doesn't get too personally intense. So I'm going to pull in now the neutral deck, the Rider-Waite-Smith, which I pulled for a clean, simple deck that can go any direction. So we're going to do the exact same spread: observe, own, create conscious change. This is a smaller deck, so we'll have to zoom in a little further. It's okay. So we need a fake querent. I'm going to call this fake querent Jeremiah. So for Jeremiah wants to look into the shadow, take a little peeky peek, and wants to know what he needs to work on, look at, be aware of, change, etc. Okay, so Jeremiah is sitting across the table from me. I'm going to really channel this pretend Jeremiah right now. Okay, observe, own, create conscious change. So observe the Fool. Let's zoom way in here. We have observe the Fool. We have own. I need to hold on. My camera is crooked. That's a little better. Okay, we have observe, own, and create conscious change. So we have two major arcana cards here, and we have the Pentacles in the center. Now, this is giving me some big feels around not worrying about what other people think. So let me take you into my brain and how I got there and what I'm thinking. So we have for observe the Fool card, which is a card about risk and about open-heartedness and about naivete. There's a lot of words we can assign to the Fool, right? He's not worrying so much about what could go wrong. He's just kind of like, la, 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 I'm going to do my thing. And that can be good or bad. But in the case of pulling it out of the shadow, what could Jeremiah be not aware of that we need to bring into the light? What do we need to observe about Jeremiah? And it's what I'm seeing about this is that there is, oh gosh, how am I going to say this right? I'll tell you what I'm feeling, and I don't know if I'll fully be able to justify it in the artwork, so we're just going to roll with it. But what I'm getting from this is that Jeremiah is trying to move through life as if he doesn't care what people think, while he deeply, deeply cares. So he's trying to be the fool. He's trying to move through life carefree and not worrying about what other people think of him, just kind of doing his thing. If other people think he's a fool, so what? That's what he wants. That's how he's trying to live his life. But he's not necessarily succeeding. He thinks he is. He's not. So we need to bring it into the light and go, okay, you think you're doing this, but you're not. You're still very hung up on other people's opinions of you, and you're letting that interrupt the free-flowing nature of this energy. You're not allowing yourself to fully trust, to fully be open. And then we move into how can he own this? How can he integrate this? And we look at the Nine of Pentacles. So to me, the Nine of Pentacles is a card about reaping the rewards of your hard work. You've earned a place in life. And I think Jeremiah is a little afraid of owning that, of really admitting that, yeah, actually, maybe he has taken some big risks in the past and he's reaped some really great rewards, but he's afraid to really be proud of that, to allow it to be something that he sees as a good quality about himself. And so he kind of buries all of this. And I feel like the own in this case is to really own that, wait a minute, you got here because you did the work. You deserve this. You deserve to recognize that by consciously choosing to take risks in life, you do deserve the rewards of that. And I think this kind of energy can show up when somebody's really hung up on like, well, I was just lucky. Well, okay, taking risks and having a benefit, having a reward come to you as a result of those risks can feel very much like luck. However, he still had to take the risk in the first place. And Jeremiah isn't really giving himself full credit for that. He's not letting himself sit in this space of ownership that this is a deserved reward. So that's what I feel like he needs to do to own it. And then we move to the sun as our, how do you create conscious change? Well, one of my favorite ways to talk about the sun card is to look at it in this context specifically of this Rider-Waite-Smith card. The naked baby on the horse to me is a reminder that we're stepping into a space of not like trying to impress anyone. The baby is in full vulnerability, authenticity, completely naked. There's no showing off here, and he's in the full light of the sun. So to me, this is about stepping into the full light of authenticity, letting yourself be seen as exactly who you are in a fearless kind of way. But the wall behind, to me, provides a certain sense of security and safety in doing so. So my advice to Jeremiah would be that the way to create conscious change is to let himself really take ownership of how he got where he got, to give himself credit, to not be afraid to take credit, to not be afraid to own it and be proud of it despite what other people think or may think. And then the sun card says it's time to, when it's safe, really step into the fullness of who you are and not let what other people may say about you or think about you stop you from being in that fullness. So instead of kind of cringing, kind of quietly telling himself that he's going to do what he thinks and he doesn't care what other people, or do what he wants and not care what other people think, the sun card says, you need to step away from kind of going through the motions of that to actually being that, actually embodying that, actually doing that. Hopefully that makes some sense of how I got there. So I'm going to zoom this out a little more. Bring this up a bit. Oh, I'm way out. Let's bring it a little bit more. And let's grab an affirmator. So what's a good takeaway for Jeremiah from this reading? What's something that he can take and consider and think about, ruminate on, journal about, etc., in relation to this particular reading around his shadow work? And with something like this, you could also ask the question, what does Jeremiah need to know right now? What message, what words of wisdom should he carry forward? And then pull a card from a deck like this. Oh, my deviant moon just fell all over the ground. Okay, let me read this and then I'm going to pick up my cards. So it says, story of my life. As I tell myself the story of what's happening in my life, I choose to make it the kind of story where even the tough parts have some sort of inner beauty. It's ultimately a happy story where every character, no matter how wicked, is doing their best. And let me tell you, it'll be worth it when I earn that Pulitzer Prize for Best Inner Monologue. I love this. To me, this is a reminder of owning the difficult moments, owning the risks that he took, owning the danger in those risks, but still saying, yeah, but it turned out well for me and here's how. And that I think is really, really beautiful. So that's how a shadow work spread can work with a basic sort of Rider-Waite-Smith kind of neutral deck. So now let's look at it with a super sweet, happy, adorable deck like the Kawaii Tarot. So now we'll have another fake querent. That worked out okay. So we'll have another fake querent. This one's name will be Jessica. Just making up names here, people. All right, so this reading will be for our pretend querent, Jessica. Okay, Jessica, we have observe, own, create conscious change. Observe, own, create conscious change. All right, so we have observe, King of Wands, own, Knight of Coins, and create conscious change, the Four of Wands. So we have some fire going on here. Let me set those cards aside and zoom us in, and let's take a look. Okay, so I think I've got it. Now, I'm looking at the King of Wands, and I'm thinking about what does the King of Wands represent, and what do I see in this artwork? We have this like owl-like creature kind of carrying this big wand, and he's got these little creatures down here that seem to be, I want to say like, not servants, what am I thinking of? Like, what is the word? If you have a kingdom and these are your people? I don't know how to say what I'm thinking. The people that you're responsible for as a king in your land, right? You're a leader. These are the people that are following you in some way. This is sitting in shadow, which immediately gives me the feeling, when I think of the King of Wands, I think of a charismatic leader. I think of somebody who's not afraid to take charge and be like, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it, and it's fine. And isn't afraid of that seat of power, isn't afraid of being in a position where others are looking to him or her for leadership. And this is sitting in shadow, which means what we need to shine a light on, in what the thing that Jessica might be afraid of is being seen as a leader or being put in a leadership position. That might be something that she's suppressing because of whatever feeling she has around that. So that's the first thing I would look at, is how comfortable is she in a leadership role. If she feels uncomfortable, especially with this leader sitting on a cactus, there's this element of, oh wait, that's probably not a very comfortable place to be sitting. It's a little pokey to be in this place, right? It's not necessarily the most comfortable or cozy spot to be, because there's a lot of responsibility and there's a lot of difficult decisions you have to make when you're in that space. So I would say to Jessica in this particular reading, I'd be like, okay, it looks like sitting in your shadow is this concept of being a charismatic leader, of being put in a position where people are looking to you to help them make decisions or to move forward. And so there's fear of that. How can we own that then? How can we own that leadership? What is the path for Jessica to integrate this into her life a little bit more? And we have the Knight of Coins. The Knight of Coins, to me, this is so cute because he's sitting on top of this like horse with a little carrot and is like so focused. The Knight of Coins is moving in the direction of change. So that's the first thing I noticed directionally. Everybody's kind of looking this way. Everybody's kind of harmoniously moving this direction. So I don't think this will necessarily be a difficult thing for Jessica to do. I think it's just going to need some attention and some care. So the Knight of Coins to me is all about responsibility. It's about being comfortable, putting one foot in front of the other, and recognizing it doesn't have to be fast. And this would be the reminder to Jessica, is if you're feeling uncomfortable when you're put in a position of leadership or in a position where you need to make a decision, the Knight of Coins advises that it's okay to go slow. That the thing you can do to really own this part of yourself, this part of you that is a leader naturally, but you've suppressed it, right? To really own that and bring it into your conscious awareness, recognize that leadership doesn't look the same on different people. So while others might be very bold and very assertive, your leadership might be quiet and steady and slow and cautious and conservative, and you're still leadering. Leadering? You're still leading. You're still doing that work. You're still making that progress. You can still inspire others without being this big dynamic personality. And so I would be telling Jessica, look at your idea, your mental image of what leadership looks like, and revamp it a bit. Come into a place where you can own it as a steady, slow, tortoise eventually wins the race kind of situation, because that's the energy of the Knight of Coins. So we've observed, we've owned for Jessica. Let's look at how to create conscious change. And I think it's perfect and adorable that we have a sloth here in the Four of Wands. And what is the Four of Wands? Like energetically, the Four of Wands, it takes the dynamic sort of assertive energy of the King of Wands and it slows it down. The Four of Wands is one of the most stable, still, quiet, contemplative cards in the Wand suit. The Four of Wands is the moment where you pause, look at everything that's been accomplished so far, notice it, appreciate it, celebrate it, notice that milestone or the progress that you've made, and then decide what's next. It's a moment of pausing to consider, to take it all in, to be in the present moment. And I think sometimes we think that as the leader, we always need to be charging dynamically forward, and that's not the case. So something Jessica can work on while embracing this inner leader within her is to recognize that it's okay to take breaks. It's okay to pause and recognize. It's okay to go slow. It's okay to take stock of or take inventory of how things have gone so far and pull them all together into something that feels cohesive so that you can slowly make a plan for what comes next. It's okay to rest. The leader doesn't have to be go, go, go all the time. And if that's a preconceived idea that Jessica has about leadership, that would explain some of the difficulty. So that's how I would guide Jessica through this particular reading. So now I'm going to move these cards up and pull some final words of advice from the affirmators. So final words of advice for Jessica on leadership. What's something she can take away from this reading? Practical advice, etc. I'm shuffling terribly. That's okay. We're going to go sideways. Still terrible. That's all right. Okay. So Jessica has, oops, I bumped my camera. Levity. This is fantastic. Okay. It says, laughter is the best free medicine, and it's high time I took a sweet, sweet hit of it. When someone annoys me or a plan goes awry, I vow to find something funny in it. And if I ever feel like the butt of the joke, I'll remember that the only difference between someone laughing at me and someone laughing with me is that in the first version, I'm not laughing. I always have the option, so I opt to lighten up. It's free in almost 200 countries. I freaking love the affirmators. They're fantastic. So for Jessica, the takeaway here is that it doesn't have to all be so serious or so heavy. Leadership can be fun. It can be playful. And she can integrate that information into how she chooses to integrate stepping into more leading roles in her life, whether it be at work or personally. Okay, you guys. That's how it works. I mean, shadow work does not have to be intense. It doesn't have to be heavy. And starting with a basic 3-card spread like this really opens things up so that you can have an experience with shadow work that is not all like heaviness all the time. While there is heaviness and there is a certain amount of self-awareness that comes into this work, it doesn't have to be this really dark, shadowy, awful thing. I love working with the Deviant Moon Tarot to do readings like this because I find it easier to see the shadow in the artwork. But as you can see, you can do an effective shadow work reading with any deck. And in this 3-card spread, you've got a lot of room to play. Affirmation decks, like the affirmators, let you add something that you know is going to be encouraging and positive to close out the reading so that you've got some difficult work in there, some confronting work, and then you take something positive, something tangible, a piece of advice that you can actually implement in your day-to-day life and take it with you. There are a lot of beautiful, why is that word so hard to say? There are a lot of beautiful affirmation style decks out in the world that will give you positive words of encouragement. I like the affirmators kind of whole product line because I find that they're a little cheeky, a little funny, a little playful, and it feels more like a friend giving you advice or an affirmation or giving you words of encouragement rather than like someone just telling me what I want to hear. It feels more real, and that's what I love about the affirmators. But there's lots of decks that you can do this kind of work with. Now, of course, I will have had links down in the description box for all 4 of the decks I used today, but I hope this helped you to kind of look at several things. We looked at different kinds of decks you can do for difficult work. We looked at sort of how to interpret the artwork directionally. We talked about that a bit throughout this example, and how to incorporate sort of finishing or clarifying or kind of bow on the package kind of cards through an oracle or affirmation style deck. I hope you guys got lots of useful information about how to work with your cards from this video. As always, this series is really meant to empower you to get comfortable working with your cards in real, practical ways so that you can do readings for yourself, so that you can really enjoy the process, and so that you can give yourself the freedom to explore and play. I think a lot of times we think that tarot is this very rigid system, this very intense structure that you have to follow all the rules. And I hope I'm demonstrating through this series that you can develop your own style. It's clear that I have my own style. You can develop your own style. You can read just by memory what the cards mean. You can integrate things you see in the artwork. You can integrate things like where characters are looking and directions. You can mix and match styles of decks with the kind of work you do. You don't always have to use a cute deck for a positive style reading. You don't always have to use a really intense shadowy deck for a dark and shadowy reading. And I hope I've shown you that you can read anything with any type of deck. So as always in this series, if you have requests for future episodes of Learn to Read Tarot with me, things you want me to cover, talk about, drop that in the comments down below so that I know what you guys want to see from this series. I am trying to keep track of those requests and start to integrate them into these videos as I can. And yeah, I would love to hear your feedback as always. When you comment on the channel, it really helps YouTube know that you guys are enjoying the content. So does clicking the like button. That has a huge impact on the channel. So I really appreciate when you take the time to hit the thumbs up button. Of course, if you're new here and you want more educational content, you want to hear more about decks, about my process with the tarot, all that kind of stuff, we do fun content here. Be sure and subscribe and click the notification bell so you're notified of all my future videos. As always, thank you so much, and may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye, guys.